I used Bernat Forever Fleece yarn in the color Balsam. That took about a half a skein. And the color White Noise, that took about right at 1 skein. All right, let's get started on our Simple Squares pillow cover. I used a 16 by 16 inch pillow form. It would also work for an 18 by 18 inch pillow form. You can make it bigger or smaller, just increase or decrease the number of your beginning chains, and you're going to start with an even number of chains plus 1 extra chain at the end. I used Bernat Forever Fleece. Big surprise if you know me, it's my favorite yarn. Any super bulky 6-weight yarn will give you this pretty stitch. And I used White Noise is the color, and the other color is Balsam. Super, super soft and thick. You could also make this in a 4-weight if you like. You just have to adjust your beginning chain to make it as wide as you want. We're just going to simply sew these together. I've already made 3, and they're simply going to be sewn together. I'm going to show you how to make the 4th one. Super, super simple. I'm using a 10mm crochet hook. I really like this tulip. It's very comfortable to use. And I began with a chain row of 21, which was my even number plus 1. I'll meet you right back. I have my initial chain row of 21. Again, you can make it any size you want, as long as you use a multiple of 2 plus 1 more chain at the end. Now we're going to come into the 2nd chain from the hook. Don't count that. 1, 2. It's up to you. You can go into the front of the chain. I like to use the back bump. And here we're going to go ahead and start our pattern. That's a slip stitch. Just pull right through. Now we're going to do a half double crochet, yarn over, go into that next chain, pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3. I'm going to find my next. If you get lost, if you're doing the back bumps and you get lost, turn it over, find your next chain. And that's the back bump there. So my last stitch was a half double. And so now I want to do a slip stitch. And you're going to alternate like that all the way across. Half double. And slip stitch. Make sure you're making those slip stitches fairly loose so you don't have trouble going into them in the next row. Continue across with alternating. My next one would be a half double and then a slip stitch. Just keep alternating those 2. I'll meet you at the end. I'm at my last chain. I'm going to go into the back bump here. Right there. That was a slip stitch. My last one should be and is a half double. You begin your rows with slip stitch and you end your rows with a half double crochet. Chain 1 and turn. It's easiest if you keep your working yarn behind you there, behind your work. So this was half double. And into each half double, you want to make a slip stitch. And again, keep them fairly loose. Now that's a slip stitch. It's just a much smaller stitch. See, this is bulky and that's your half double. So into the slip stitch, we want to make a half double. You're just always going to start with a slip stitch and continue alternating. Now, That was your half double. You're going to do a slip stitch into that half double from the row before. I kind of like to look at it like this kind of goes uphill a little bit. Whenever you're going uphill, that's going to be your half double. Whenever you're going back down the hill, that's going to be your slip stitch. But as long as you remember to alternate, you always start with a slip stitch, you alternate, slip stitch and half double, and you end with half double. All your rows are going to be the same. And see how it's starting to make that cute pattern there? It's kind of a zigzag. It's really pretty. I like this stitch. Super, super simple. All right, I will meet you when I have made my square, and I'll show you how big I made mine for this particular pillow cover. Be sure to not miss that last slip stitch. I made mine a little tight in that final row, and it looks like I'm on my last stitch, but I'm not. You'll see this little bump out here, and your little V, and that's your slip stitch, and you go into that. See how I made it pretty tight. I didn't do myself any favors. And there's your final half double. So now I need to make sure when I go into the next row that I keep that a little bit loose. That's going to help me when I come back around. Okay, just wanted to show you that. Okay, we're going to end our square when all you have to do, you don't have to count rows, it's 20 rows, but count the little bumps. 1, 2, 3. And that's with the right side facing, which is the tail from your chain is on the left. Let's start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we want to end on the right side. And I'm just going to cut my yarn and pull it through. For the back panel, we're going to actually make 2 pieces so that they can overlap. And you can take the cover off to wash it. So you're just doubling your chain. 41, well, almost doubling, 40 plus 1 more chain at the end. So chain of 41, and just go ahead and make the same pattern that we did. Come in second chain from the hook, slip stitch, half double, and we're alternating exactly the same as you did on the squares. You could do 2 colors if you want to. I actually ran out of the balsam because I used more of it for a couple of other projects. You can get at least 4 squares out of 1 skein. 2 squares took less than half of 1 skein. So continue on, and I will meet you and let you know how tall I want to make this. I'm going to go past 20 rows. I want to go further than half, so probably about 30 rows, but I'll let you know when I figure it out. All right, I've made my back panels. My squares had 21 rows. I had said 20 rows, which I knew didn't sound right because if you end on the right side where your tail from your beginning chain is on the left, it's going to be an odd number. So my squares were 21 rows. This is 27 or 29, I'm not sure. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29. So 8 more rows than the first one. You can make it as long as 2, let's see, 21 rows, so 42 rows, and just sew the whole thing together if you don't want to leave it open. But I wanted to make it where it could overlap. So I made a second piece. These are all just going to be sewn together on the sides of the squares that are going to be sewn together. And I'm going to overlap it by about 4 rows. So this last piece, I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 rows. I'm on the wrong side, so it's an even because I'm going to go 1 more row, but we're going to do it a little differently. All right, so I'm at the end of the row. I've already chained 1, turn, and we're going to make single crochets for 20. We have 40 stitches total. We're going to go 20 stitches and then make a little buttonhole. You don't have to do this because you can easily get a button through any of these. I just thought it would look cute and a nice little finish. If you want to use the other color, the balsam, or whatever color you used, that would also be a nice finish. But this way you can switch it over and have just a white pillow if you want to. So go in each stitch. Now you know what? I'm going to switch. You don't have to. I'm going to switch to a smaller hook. This is a 6.5 millimeter. Just going to bring your stitches kind of tighter together. But you don't have to. You can use the bigger one. So I'm going to count 20. 1. Oops. Trying to look at the screen and crochet. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. I'm running kind of low here. 7. So you're going to need less than 1 skein for the balsam. And you're going to need 2 skeins, at least 2 skeins, depending on how you make your stitches. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I want to go to 20, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and at 20, you're right in the middle. Let's chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Go back into that same stitch with a slip stitch. And there's your little buttonhole. And just finish out with single crochet. And from here, we're going to sew the whole pillow together. We're going to put all our squares together. And then we'll sew all our side seams together. It's really, really easy. If you wanted to, instead of sewing it, you could join with a slip stitch. You could join with a single crochet. You can join the squares with any kind of join you want to. The blanket that I made, I used a zigzag join. But I wanted this to be a little more tailored. Oops, losing my yarn here. And again, you don't have to move down to a smaller hook if you don't want to. It's just more convenient. But you see how it kind of tightens it up. You could go with another row of single crochet and chain right on top of the chain stitches here if you wanted to make it a little more pronounced, but you don't have to. I'm not going to. I'll keep it simple. zigzag to keep things simple. All right, we're just simply going to finish off by chaining one and cutting our yarn, pulling it through tightly, and that's fastening off. And now we're back on the right side. All right, I'll be back in a minute to show you how I am sewing it together. It's very easy. Okay, I have sewn together 4, just the middle edges here. I'm going to start, just going to do the same thing. It's a little bit different because one of your rows will be the chain row, the beginning chain row, because we wanted to keep everything on the right side so that our pattern stays the same. So one row will be the chain row and the other row will be the top, the last row of your single or slip stitch and half double crochet. So we're going to do the same thing though. I'm just going to start, and this is the front. This is where I sewed them together. So just pull on through. Whoops. And just knot it together. It's going to be the same thing. You just have to decide. We're going to come through here and grab a stitch way in the back so we keep those loops showing. I'm going to keep that zigzaggy loop showing there. Okay. And let's come up to the next one. You can either come through the whole 2 loops of the chain or just the front loop, and it'll match up nicely. I'm going to try going through the whole loop and see. Make sure that doesn't make too big of a hole there. And again, come through one of the nice tight back stitches. My goal is to keep these puffy stitches close together. I don't like that. Okay, I'm actually going to join these together. I stitched them together. I didn't like the way it looked. If you want to stitch them together, I would suggest that you go through and make a single crochet border all the way around each square, and that will make it a lot easier to join. I don't have very much of this balsam left, so I didn't have enough to do that. Make sure that your tails are on the left so that your patterns line up, and also have your bottom chain row up here at the top so that you can put it in the back. And you'll be good to go. All of your squares should look like that. We're going to start down here at the bottom. And grab my yarn. Oops. And I have a slip knot. I'm going to put it in this very bottom corner. Pull it tight. And through, make a chain. It's going to lock that in. And then I took my hook off. I'm going to come over here. I am using 6.5mm hook. You can use probably up to an 8mm would be good. I wouldn't go with the 10. I'm going to do a zigzag join. The most important thing to remember is to keep your working yarn behind your hook and to come into the stitch from the top. So I'm going across over to here, into that stitch, oops, from the top, pull my yarn through both of those loops. And now I'm just going to find my next stitch right there, just one loop, come in from the top. Your yarn is behind you, pull through both loops. You have to wiggle it through sometimes. Keep these fairly loose. Find your next stitch, come in from the top and down. Pull your yarn through both loops. Cross over to the next. Find a stitch, come in from the top, pull through both loops. Down and through. Cross over. Find your next stitch. I'm going to go in there, keep my yarn behind me, and pull through. And you can start to see the zigzag forming. I'm going to do just a few more so you can really see it. Such a cute join. I felt like this pattern with these nice loopy ridges here just needed something a little more substantial for joining them together. I know it's just going to be a pillow, but we want it to look cute. I didn't want to look at it every time and say, I sure wish I had made a different kind of join. This is my favorite join. Kind of reminds me of the icing on a gingerbread cookie. And there you go. Just keep crossing over. Make sure you're going down from the top and you're coming through two loops. It gets easier and easier as you go. It really does. This one's just fine. My loops are a little stretched out because I had already sewed them together and I pulled it all out. But that's what happens when you crochet. Sometimes you look at it and say, that's not exactly what I was thinking. Let's try again. My husband is always amazed that it doesn't bother me to have to pull the project apart. I'm hardly ever in a hurry. And I just consider it a learning process. It doesn't bother me. All right. When you reach the top and you want to start joining the other squares, if you end up on this side, just simply hop over here, find your stitch, and continue your zigzag pattern. If you end up on a stitch on this side, simply cross over to this one right here in the corner and continue your zigzag to the top. When you get to the top, you're just going to fasten off. You're going to come back and do the same thing, coming across, and when you meet where you already have your join here, you're simply going to hop over and continue your join. It's really simple. Isn't that cute? It looks a lot better than just sewing them together, I think. All right, I will meet you when I have all my joins together and I'm ready to sew the back panels on. Those will just be sewed on, I think. All right, I want to show you how to jump over this previous join row. I am on my last stitch, which is, I'm going to jump across over here. There's your working yarn. It's going to go over that row. And pull it through kind of loose. And since I ended up on this side, I'm going to jump over to this side. Hit that corner. Now, this is my join row. I'm not going to join in there. I'm going to make sure that I'm coming into my square. That's the bottom of my square there. It's the same thing. And then we're going to come over here. I want to find that back loop. You don't have to. You could go through both loops. I think you end up with a better join. There, that flipped all of them over. So that you're just automatically working in that loop that's closest to the middle. All right, so continue on. And this is where you jumped over. I'll manipulate it a little bit. Now remember, these are going to be, that's even with that. That's even with that. Got it? All right, when you reach the end, just fasten off. And then we're going to join the back panels. All right, I went around and tied all my edges and made sure my rows were relatively even. Remember, those are just going to be on the inside. I'll go ahead and tie this one too so that they'll meet up pretty straight there. I did that all the way around. And now we're ready to put our back panels on. Getting close. All right, I have all my squares joined together with that zigzag join, and I'm going to leave that facing me. I'm going to take the larger back panel and put it on, and I want this puffy side, not the chain side, to face this part, to face the right. That's going to be the right side. So we're going to line it up. With the corners, and you can stretch it as needed if they, maybe your stitches were a little looser or tighter at some point. All right, and let's see, I already tied this top piece to the corner. I want this side, not the side that looks like chains, but this puppy side, I want that to go on the inside. These are going to overlap. It's going to button here on the other side when we flip it over. So we need to make sure that these overlap. And it makes it kind of, hello. Sorry about all the motion there. It's kind of like an envelope, and I want to join it right about here. Stretch this as needed. And just make sure wherever you join on this side, you do the same thing on the other side. So I happen to have a tail there, so I tied it just to hold on to it. And we're going to go all the way around with, you can sew it however you want to. I was going to just sew it with either a mattress stitch or a whip stitch, which is just going over and over and over and over. But then I have to keep changing and adding to the yarn. I never seem to have enough That would be a really, really long piece of yarn. So I am just going to slip stitch it all the way around. I'm going to start in this corner. I have a slip knot already. Let's bring it through both of these corners. Get the tail out of the way and just bring through a chain. And all you're going to do is find your next stitch. And through. You can either do 2 loops or 1 loop, up to you. I'm going to do 2. And there, I had to wiggle it through. And just a slip stitch, just go through that 1 loop. Find your next stitch. Oops. I'm going to grab that second loop. There, yay! As you're going, just make sure it's staying fairly straight. And again, you're going to come all the way around. I'm going to keep going. And I'm going to meet you when I hit where I meet both of the back panels. Just to show you how to go through all of those. I'm sure you can figure it out, but I'll show you. I actually found I didn't have to be all that careful about finding my stitches. Just find the next hole. And I turned it over and it looked really good from the other side. I'm making this for a 16 by 16 pillow form because that's what I had. Generally speaking, you use a bigger pillow form than the pillow cover because you want it to fit snugly. So it's not wrinkling up. See here, I'm just finding a hole. Keep the slip stitch a little bit on the loose side. Oops, I want to make sure when I get here, remember I said I wanted to overlap about there. So I'm going to overlap this bigger piece over the smaller piece right here. That way when we flip it over, the pillow won't show. So my next stitch, goodness, let's take that stitch out. Okay, my next stitch from this row, I'm going to come through here, here, and join at the corner of the other back panel. So you're going to have a couple of rows where it's really, really thick. And through there. Actually, I'm going to have 3 rows, which is good. I want it to overlap a bit. And another row. Make sure you grab all 3 layers of your back panels and your front squares. So you're sewing it all together. Let me show you how it's looking from this side. That's how your seam will look. It looks nice. Okay. So keep going. The biggest thing to remember, you can keep stretching this if you need to. The most important thing to remember is this is the row where you started, where you joined the two back panels together with the front. So when you come all the way over here, make sure that that's where you join as well, just to keep it even. Keep making sure your corners and your edges are lining up properly, and you're just going to go I am dropping things left and right all the way around until you get back to your first corner, and just tie it off, and I'll meet you there. I'll show you how it looks in the pillow. All right, I'm almost done with my seams. I did want to point out the top and the bottom have these nice V's to go into. On the edges, you don't have those. It makes it a little harder, a little longer to make your seams. I chose to go ahead and work through those because it's just the inside of the pillow. It doesn't matter. However, this is a lot easier to make your slip stitches into. Let me show you. And it's going to lie flatter. So if you want to have that all the way around, before you start putting everything together, make a row of single crochet on every edge that you have. And the seaming will go a lot faster and lie a lot flatter. That's up to you. All right, I flipped the pillow cover right side out. I have a 16 by 16 pillow form in here right now. It actually ended up being closer to 17 by 17. So an 18 by 18 pillow form would be a better fit. It would make it a tighter fit. Flip it over. I added a little button there. Just sewed it on. This is pretty close. You could make this top piece longer to overlap more. Like I said, I was running short on yarn because I've used it for so many different things. You should only take about a half a skein for the 2 squares of the balsam, another half a skein for the 2 squares of white noise, and at least a half skein for the back piece. You probably want to make sure you have 2 skeins of the white just to be on the safe side. I think it came out really cute. It's a beautiful texture, very, very soft, nice and neutral. I hope you enjoy that. You can see up here where if I had the bigger pillow form, it would fill it out on the sides more. I love those colors. I think they're just so nice and neutral. Let me know how you like it. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed, I would appreciate that. And if you have already, I appreciate you greatly. And stay tuned for more free videos and all my patterns. I have written patterns for free on my website at www.i-crochet.com, and they never have ads. See you next time.